Surprise, surprise, Pierre Gasly re-signs with AlphaTauri on yet another one-year deal for 2023. Now, yeah, I don't think this came as a shock to too many people. I mean, it's kind of like expecting or wondering, where is Lance Stroll going to go in 2023? Is he going to get re-signed by Aston Martin or not? So, yeah, it came as no shock that Pierre Gasly is going to remain. I don't think Yuki Tsunoda is yet confirmed for next year, although I do think that's coming because I think Yuki is having a much stronger season compared to his rookie season. But originally, I wasn't going to make a video about this because actually this weekend, and I'm recording Saturday morning, I am actually at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. If you're going, I'm going to be there Saturday and Sunday, and if you're going and you see me, come say hi. It's always cool to see subscribers. But yeah, I didn't have time to kind of make a full video about this, but I did want to quickly give my thoughts about the whole Gasly situation, because it's a weird one with Pierre Gasly, because I totally understand why he's in this holding pattern of just waiting and waiting, you know, for a seat at a much or a bigger team to open up. He wants to move up the grid, and AlphaTauri is not a backmarker team, you know, they're not kind of in that kind of Williams position at the moment where they're still trying to even make their way into the midfield. AlphaTauri is a respectable team. Potentially, if everything kind of aligns, they still have the possibility of getting podiums if there's kind of like a crazy race, and Gasly's a Grand Prix winner. He's got the capabilities and he's got the skill set now, especially in the environment where he's at, to kind of take advantage of those crazy situations. But the reason why it's kind of a weird one with me and Pierre Gasly is that there's kind of this unknown about him. I don't rate him as a world championship caliber driver, not someone like a Lando Norris or Charles Leclerc or even a George Russell in my opinion, but he is someone who I think almost deserves a chance to prove me wrong. You know, he should have the chance to go up against a Charles Leclerc or, you know, a Lando Norris, and McLaren I'm sure is going to be a big one, a big team in his sights, to kind of prove that maybe he is that driver. Maybe he has rebounded after that 2019 Red Bull season, but there is still a very big difference between the amazing kind of work that he does and what he's been able to produce at AlphaTauri in that midfield environment, and then the pressure of a top team. Now, I mean, again, Carlos Sainz is actually a brilliant example. I don't rate Pierre Gasly above Carlos Sainz. I just don't. But the one thing that we've seen with Sainz is that he was absolutely one of the very best in the midfield. And then when he was given a championship level card this season, he just hasn't been able to adapt. He hasn't been able to step his game up as the expectations and the pressure also rises. And I want to see Pierre Gasly in that situation, for better or for worse. I think that he's done enough in AlphaTauri, you know, after leaving Red Bull to kind of, you know, to kind of have his chance at least a top team that is capable of podiums and maybe even race wins as well. There we can finally see, you know, a second chance. Is he about that? Can he actually challenge for titles and go up against the likes of Max Verstappen in his own team? Or is he just a very good midfield driver who's still capable of podiums but never quite able for a championship? But unfortunately, it's a lot easier said than done to be put in that position, and Pierre Gasly is in a holding pattern. Now, AlphaTauri is not a bad team to kind of stay in and kind of keep in this holding pattern, but the problem with Pierre Gasly is that his stock at the moment is probably as high as it's ever going to be. But as Yuki Tsunoda improves, the one kind of difficult thing about staying at AlphaTauri is that although he's comfortable there, although he can really kind of get the best out of himself, the more you stay there, the more chance you give someone like Yuki Tsunoda to maybe catch up to you and maybe even beat you. And at that point, that kind of gets a little bit scary, because if Yuki Tsunoda reaches the level of Pierre Gasly and maybe even beats him, then the other teams where Pierre wants to go when they do open up in 2024 or whatever, you know, maybe Mercedes if Lewis leaves, or maybe McLaren if Daniel's not able to sign there, he runs the risk of maybe actually not looking good enough to those teams if the likes of Yuki Tsunoda can catch up to him. So yeah, I totally understand what he's doing, because he's waiting out for one of these big seats. He doesn't want to take the risk that Daniel Ricciardo took in 2018 to 2019, moving from Red Bull to Renault, because that was a downward move where, you know, Ricciardo was risking Renault to get better throughout, you know, developing their car, and even the new rule changes as well that should have come for 2021, but of course came this year for 2022. Now, maybe Gasly has seen that and he doesn't want to take that risk. He wants to go to a surefire, maybe not a sideways move, but at the very least, a tiny bit of a step up with a team that has more potential. He's very set on that. He doesn't want to move down the grid, and he doesn't want to take that risk. But unfortunately, Formula One is all about risks, and Gasly is not, as much as I love Gasly and I do really rate him, again, as one of the absolute best drivers in the midfield, he doesn't have that level of talent where he's not a young Max Verstappen or a young Charles Leclerc where regardless of experience, those teams, those top teams, they're going to take the risk on him. They don't see him that way. They kind of need him to prove himself still, and they kind of have that bad kind of taste in their mouths of what happened at Red Bull. So yeah, the thing about this, him constantly staying at AlphaTauri, and I was kind of frustrated because I do think he should have took the risk of going somewhere, maybe a Williams, and I know that Williams are behind behind AlphaTauri at the moment, but I think Pierre Gasly needs to start building his own team. It's not about a year's time or 2 years' time. It's about 3 or 4. It's about building those roots right now, but he kind of wants to wait longer at AlphaTauri, but take that shortcut. And the problem with someone like Mercedes, let's say, Lewis Hamilton retires in 2024 and Pierre Gasly is ready to step in. I am not sure if, by then, if Mercedes might even want Pierre Gasly. There might be someone that comes along, out of Formula 2 or Formula 3 or whatever in 2 years' time that Mercedes go, he is the next superstar talent. That's the problem with staying at the same team for a very long time. It can stagnate. You can actually you think you're performing at your absolute best, but you're actually just performing at kind of a similar level and not getting better as the younger drivers around you are, and you might even get overtaken, and that's the risk that Pierre Gasly runs. Now, of course, if he stays doing a good job at AlphaTauri, still being one of the absolute best drivers in the midfield, maybe he will get picked up by a McLaren, for example. If it doesn't work out with Daniel Ricciardo and he runs out his contract and McLaren choose not to sign him. But even then, McLaren are already flirting with some of those IndyCar drivers. Zach Brown, he's always got that marketing. He really wants an American driver, I think, at McLaren as well. And again, Pierre Gasly, he just isn't that level of talent where all of those top teams are going, he's the next guy. He is next up. We want him after, our current drivers if it doesn't work out. So yeah, he's kind of on that kind of slippery slope where his stock is very high now, but the problem with this holding pattern at AlphaTauri is that he gives a chance for other drivers to overtake him. So yeah, it's a weird one with Pierre Gasly. I still don't know where his career is going to go. I mean, he's not young. The guy, I think, is like 27 years old, I think, Pierre Gasly, or 28, so he is getting, into that age where you've kind of got to find a long-term team. Now, of course, another option is just to be a AlphaTauri driver for the next 5 years. But that's a weird one because AlphaTauri is Red Bull's sister team, and even though there isn't any kind of young Formula 2 drivers in the Red Bull program that really look like they're the next up, they are the next Max Verstappen, or even the next, Yuki Tsunoda who can get promoted up, I don't think they have that talent yet. But with Red Bull, you never know. There could be a driver just around the corner. I mean, again, I know we always talk about Max Verstappen, and we shouldn't use him as the example because he's an outlier. He's a Sebastian Vettel. Those guys, they're 1 in a million, but in a year and a half, Max Verstappen went from no one knowing his name to him being the absolute hottest talent in even the junior formulas, and even the likes of Mercedes were trying to poach him at the age of 16. That's how quickly Formula 1 moves. And that's the problem that I think Pierre Gasly might run into. He is a great driver and he's doing a fantastic job yet. I want to see him one more time in that high pressure situation of a team with massive expectations, with a team that maybe can challenge for podiums, and the pressure once again on Pierre Gasly with the team around him. At the moment, it just feels like he's just kind of staying in Formula 1, trying to bide his time. But I just feel like his career is not going anywhere. And the longer he almost bides his time, the longer he just stays at AlphaTauri as a solid driver, someone to, back up Red Bull's junior, he's not going to Red Bull. There's no chance of that, in my opinion, because of what happened in 2019, and also because Sergio Perez is doing such a good job as well. But yeah, it's a weird one with Pierre Gasly. I'm not quite sure where his career is going to go. I totally get him staying at AlphaTauri, but yeah, I'm a little bit worried in terms of the amount of time that he's spending just waiting for the right move. I think perhaps it might have been worth taking some pain and going to a lower team like an Alfa Romeo or a Williams and building roots and building the team around him. As it stands now, he doesn't have the opportunity. He thinks the best that he can do is to wait for a top team, a Mercedes or a McLaren, or maybe even an Aston Martin if, it doesn't work out with Seb. I think that could be a very exciting combination. I'd actually love to see Seb and Pierre Gasly actually together. I think that could be a really nice lineup for Aston Martin, but we know why that is not going to happen because Lance Stroll is firmly confirmed there. So the seats that are available and the seats that might become available in a few years, I'm not sure Pierre Gasly is going to be like the #1 choice for those teams anyway, and that's the risk that he runs. Anyway, maybe that's just his choice, but yeah, it's a weird one with Pierre Gasly. I think he's a driver with so much potential, but I've got a feeling that we might not see the best of it in his career if he keeps on staying with AlphaTauri and not wanting to take a risk. So yeah, that's my quick, off the cuff, just off the top of my head, thoughts about Pierre Gasly. Once again, I am at Goodwood this weekend, so that's why I wasn't able to make kind of a more in-depth video, but I did still want to give my thoughts on a driver who I really do like, but I think like his career is starting to stagnate just a little bit. Don't forget to let me know all of your thoughts in the comments box below about the re-signing of Pierre Gasly, where you think his career is going, and also what team potentially should take him and might realistically take him in 2024, as that is the nearest kind of option. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you did, and I'll see you in the next one.